The alarm blared at 5, but Paige had been awake for an hour, sitting at the kitchen table in the soft pre-dawn light. Her hands trembled as she sorted Scott's pills into neat little containers: painkillers, anti-inflammatories, muscle relaxants. The kitchen smelled faintly of coffee and toast, but the air felt heavy with silence. It had been 3 months since the accident. Her life had shrunk to a mechanical routine: kitchen, bedroom, a corner of the living room turned therapy station. She carried a tray upstairs, coffee steaming, toast buttered, Scott's morning medications lined up like tiny soldiers. "Good morning, sweetheart. How did you sleep?" she asked gently. Scott's eyes were glued to his phone, thumbs tapping frantically. "Fine, thanks," he said flatly, setting it face down. "Just leave it there and run the bath." Paige forced a smile. "Of course. But first, you need your medicine." She reached out to help him sit up, and he brushed her hand away. "I can do it myself, Paige. I'm not disabled." The sharpness in his voice startled her. Before the accident, Scott had been warm, affectionate, quick with a laugh. Now every act of care seemed to irritate him. As she filled the tub, she caught the muffled sound of his voice, whispering, "I can't talk now. She's here. I'll call you later." Her heart lurched. Who was he talking to, in secret, in their own home? "The bath is ready," she called. When she returned, Scott had hidden his phone and stared at her blankly. "Who was on the phone?" she asked before she could stop herself. "Work. Nothing important," he muttered, stripping off his shirt. "Can you help me to the bathroom?" Even in the shower, he clutched his phone, shielding the screen from her. Whenever she tried to talk about his recovery, returning to work, or plans they'd once shared, he shut her down or claimed pain. "Do you remember when we talked about having kids?" Paige asked softly, helping him dress. "Maybe now would be a good time." "I'm home. I could take care of you and a baby." "Are you serious?" Scott snapped. "You think this is the moment to start a family? Look at me. How am I supposed to provide like this? But the doctor said you'll walk normally again in a few months. We'll get through this." "I don't want to talk about this right now," he cut her off, snatching up his phone. She glimpsed a reflection of a conversation she couldn't read. Days blurred. Paige cooked while Scott sat in the living room, supposedly watching TV but really glued to his phone. Faint laughter and whispered words, never meant for her, filtered from the screen. Meals passed in tense silence. His responses were clipped, distracted. "Have you spoken with Emily?" she asked one afternoon. "Why would I talk to your sister?" he shot back. "You two used to get along. She even called to ask how you were. But it's been weeks. People have their own lives, Paige. We can't expect everyone to care forever." At night, Paige finally collapsed into bed exhausted. Scott stayed downstairs. She heard muffled conversations, stifled laughter, tender whispers. Once when she checked, he quickly hung up and feigned sleep. "Why don't you come to bed?" she asked. "My leg hurts. The mattress is too soft." "I don't want to wake you," he said night after night. Then one night, her unease became unbearable. She crept down the stairs, frozen at the sound of his voice, soft, intimate, alive in a way it hadn't been with her for months. "I miss you too, my love. This won't last forever. Soon we'll be together again." No, she doesn't suspect a thing. She's too busy playing nurse. Her knees nearly buckled. Heart hammering, she crept back upstairs, staring at the ceiling. The questions she'd been too afraid to ask surfaced. Who was this person? How long had it been going on? And how had she been so blind? The next morning, Scott slept on the couch, his phone face down. For the first time in 3 months, Paige felt more than compassion. She felt rage. She tried every password she could think of. Nothing worked. When he stirred, she set the phone down and poured coffee, keeping her voice calm. "Good morning, sweetheart. Sleep well on the couch. Better than in the bed." "I think I'll stay here for a while," he said, grabbing his phone and scanning messages with a hidden smile. That afternoon, after he drifted into a nap, his phone was unlocked. Paige's pulse raced. Most conversations were innocent, but one thread stopped her cold. The contact was saved as E. The last message, sent just hours before, "I still can't believe I almost lost being with you in that accident." Her hands shook. Scott hadn't been alone in the car that night. Someone else had been there, someone he'd been hiding all along. By dawn, Paige had made her decision. "Do you need anything from the store?" she asked calmly the next morning. "No, just don't take too long." "You know, I worry when you're gone," he said, the same false warmth she now recognized. Instead of shopping, Paige drove to Boulder and found a private investigator she'd researched online, Henry Mitchell. Tall, sharp-eyed, calm, professional. She poured out everything. The accident, the whispers, the phone calls, the message from E. "Mrs. Paige," Henry said, folding his hands, "cases like this are more common than you'd think. I'll need every detail, where it happened, what he told you." He said he was coming from a work meeting. The accident was around 7 at night, on Foothills Parkway near the Flatirons Mall. "But now I know he wasn't alone." "I'll find out," Henry assured her. "Security cameras, police reports, witnesses. In 48 hours, you'll have answers." He slid a card across the desk. "But prepare yourself. Sometimes the truth hurts more than not knowing." When Paige returned home, Scott was on the phone again. She froze as she listened. "No, baby, she doesn't suspect a thing. She's too busy taking care of me," he chuckled softly. "You're right, she's so naive." Rage flared, but Paige forced herself to stay calm. She walked in noisily, making him hang up. "How were the groceries?" he asked, slipping his phone away. "Fine. I picked up those cookies you like," she said, handing him the bag, watching relief wash over his face as she stayed silent. That night, Paige knew she had to see the truth. Over dinner, she slipped a slightly stronger dose of his sleeping pill into his juice. "You look tired, honey. Why don't you rest?" "I'll stay here and watch TV," Scott said, downing it without hesitation. "Good night, sweetheart." Paige kissed his forehead and went upstairs, but sleep wouldn't come. After an hour, she crept back down. Scott was sprawled on the couch, out cold, his phone lying at his side. This time, she unlocked it with his fingerprint. Her heart froze. Messages with E stretched back over a year. Romantic notes, secret plans, declarations of love. Then the latest message shattered her. A photo, an ultrasound. The caption read, "Our baby is doing great. I'm 3 months along now." Paige's knees buckled. He wasn't just cheating. The other woman was pregnant. Her breath caught as she clicked on E's profile. The name flashed, Emily Martin. Her sister. Paige staggered to the bathroom, vomiting violently. Emily, the sister who had feigned support, decorated her house with her, pretended to be a confidant, was carrying Scott's child. She read on, shaking. Days earlier, Emily had written, "I know my sister doesn't deserve this, but what I feel for you is stronger. Once he's better, we'll tell her everything." Scott's reply, "Don't worry about Paige. She'll get over it. She's always been tough. Honestly, our marriage has been dead for a long time. You make me happy." Paige shut the phone and left it where it was. Upstairs, she lay awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling. The tears were gone. Pain had hardened into something colder, sharper, more dangerous. A steady, burning fury. By morning, Scott woke groggy, blaming his deep sleep on fatigue. Paige greeted him with breakfast, her smile polite but hollow. "Good morning, honey. How did you sleep?" "Great." Finally relaxed. He immediately reached for his phone, grinning. Paige set his plate down, watching him type, probably to Emily, probably laughing at the fool serving him breakfast. Her phone rang. Henry Mitchell. "Mrs. Paige, I need to see you." "It's urgent. I'll come to your office." "Leaving now," she said. Turning to Scott lightly, she said, "That was the lab. I need to go." "Don't forget to ask about the results," he said absently, eyes glued to his phone. At Henry's office, Paige got the confirmation she'd feared. Scott hadn't been alone the night of the accident. Security footage showed a woman leaving the car moments before firefighters arrived. She was never treated at the hospital. "I know who she is," Paige said flatly. "My sister." "I'm sorry, Mrs. Paige," Henry said gently. "Sorry." Paige laughed bitterly. "No, Henry. What hurt was not knowing. Now it's simple." Back home, Scott was on the phone again, oblivious to her in the doorway. "Don't worry, baby. The lazy one is still playing nurse. At least she's good for something, he laughed. But once I'm back on my feet, I'll kick her out and run straight to you. Something inside Paige snapped. Sorrow was gone, replaced by fierce determination. He had underestimated her, and he would pay. She entered the room as if nothing had happened. Later, alone in her room, she opened her laptop. If Scott thought she was a docile caretaker, he was about to learn her true capabilities. In the following days, Paige played the role perfectly. Devoted wife, smiling through gritted teeth. Every my love, every forced kiss, part of her plan. One afternoon, she approached Scott, glued to his phone. I've been thinking, she said brightly. What if we host a family dinner? It's been so long since we were all together. Scott blinked. A dinner? While I'm still recovering. Exactly. It would do you good to feel supported. And, she added sweetly, I have some big news to share. His curiosity flared. For the first time in weeks, he set his phone down. What kind of news? It's a surprise, she said smiling. But I'm sure everyone will be thrilled. Especially you and Emily. Scott's face paled. Why Emily? Well, she's always been close to us. She really cares about our marriage. Paige's voice was innocent, but her eyes never left his. In fact, I'll call her right now. No. Scott blurted. I mean, maybe later. She might be busy. Nonsense. Emily always makes time for family. Paige dialed. Hi, Emily. Hi, honey. How are you? Emily's voice trembled faintly. We're great. Actually, I'm planning a family dinner Saturday. I want everyone there. I have very important news. Paige watched Scott blanch. What kind of news? Emily asked nervously. You'll see, sis. But trust me, you'll love it. Can you come? Of course. I'll try, Emily stammered. It's not optional, Emily. This is special. I need you here. Paige's tone left no room for doubt. After hanging up, Scott forced a nervous smile. What's going on, Paige? You're making me curious. Patience, my love. You'll find out Saturday. She kissed his cheek and walked out, leaving him in quiet panic. In the days leading up to the dinner, Paige called family, her mother, Scott's mother, aunts, uncles, cousins, always in front of Scott, always dropping the same line, I have something very important to share. Scott grew increasingly nervous. He tried to persuade her to cancel, claiming he wasn't strong enough. Paige smiled, unfazed. Don't be ridiculous, honey. You're doing much better. It's time to celebrate. She cleaned the house with unusual energy. This will be a night no one forgets. Thursday, Paige stopped by Henry's office before grocery shopping. He handed her a thick envelope. Here's everything: photos, reports, recorded calls. It's all documented. Paige slipped it into her purse. Thank you, Henry. You've been essential in helping me uncover the truth. He hesitated. Be careful, Paige. Revenge can be dangerous. She gave him a chilling smile. Don't worry. I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm just serving the truth for dinner. By Friday, Emily called, trying to back out. I'm not feeling well. I don't think I can make it. Feigning concern, Paige asked. Strange. You're not pregnant, are you, Emily? A long silence. No, of course not. I just feel sick. That's a relief. It would be terrible if someone in the family was pregnant and keeping it secret, wouldn't it? Paige's voice dripped with venom. Emily stammered an excuse and hung up. Scott, who had overheard, looked pale. Why would you ask her that? What about the pregnancy? She said she felt nauseous. Morning sickness is one of the first signs, isn't it? Paige's tone was innocent, but her eyes never left him. Scott quickly left the room, clutching his phone. On Saturday, Paige woke early to prepare Scott's favorite meal: lasagna, Caesar salad, and tiramisu. She set the table with their wedding china, candles flickering in the center. Scott watched, uneasy. You seem excited today. Of course. Tonight, everyone will hear our news. By 7 p.m., the guests arrived. Paige's mother, Linda, entered first, stern and proud. Grace, Scott's mother, followed, then aunts, uncles, cousins. Emily arrived last, hesitant, avoiding Scott's gaze. The air in Paige's Boulder home was thick with tension, the scent of polished wood and candle wax mixing with anxiety. Once everyone was seated, Paige raised her glass, calm but commanding. Before dinner, I want to share why I called you all here. And yes, it involves a pregnancy. Linda gasped. I knew it. I'll finally be a grandmother. Paige's smile was cold as steel. Yes, Mom, you will. But I'm not the one who's pregnant. My sister Emily is. And the father is my husband. Silence slammed into the room. Linda's wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering. Grace gasped. Scott tried to rise, legs trembling. Paige held up her phone, displaying the messages that exposed every secret. Before anyone denies it, I have proof. Linda's face twisted in horror. Emily, is this true? I can explain, Emily stammered. Explain. Linda snapped. How you betrayed your sister. Slept with her husband. Scott tried to intervene. Paige, please, it's not like that. Paige erupted. Not like that? You called me lazy while planning to leave me for my own sister. Grace turned on her son. Tell me it isn't true, Scott. Tell me you didn't do this to Paige. Our marriage was over long ago, he muttered. Over. Grace's voice shook. She gave up everything to care for you, bathed you, fed you, kept you alive, and you dare say it was over? Emily broke down sobbing. Paige, it wasn't planned. I love him. It just happened. The slap echoed. Paige's hand struck Emily's cheek, leaving it red. You call this love? Betraying your sister while carrying her husband's child. Linda grabbed Emily's shoulders. Shameless. With so many men in the world, you chose your sister's husband. Mom, stop. Emily cried, but Linda's fury only intensified. You are no daughter of mine. Today, you cease to exist. In the chaos, Paige stood tall, no longer naive, no longer a devoted wife, but a woman who had shattered every illusion in one decisive night. Scott tried to deflect. Think of the baby. Grace shot him a look of disgust. A blessing? It's the product of betrayal, your weakness. Paige's eyes were icy. Oh, the night isn't over. I have one more surprise. She raised her hand. Two large men entered. Security guards Henry had arranged. What's going on? Scott tried to rise, but his legs buckled. You're being evicted, Paige said, calm and cold. This house is mine. I used my inheritance for the down payment. Now you're gone. You can't. I'm still recovering. Scott shouted. Oh, I can. And I will. Paige turned to Emily. Since you two love each other so much, you can live together. You have a baby to raise, after all. The guards lifted Scott from his chair. Pilar, please, he begged. Paige showed no emotion. Take him to her address. She handed a guard a slip of paper. Emily panicked. I can't. I live alone. I can't handle this. You should have thought of that before getting pregnant, Paige snapped. Now, you're each other's problem. Grace hugged Paige. I'm so sorry, my daughter. Your husband doesn't deserve you. Linda came to Paige's side. You did the right thing, sweetheart. She turned to Emily. You're no longer my daughter. Emily's voice cracked. Mom, please. Don't say that. My daughter died tonight, Linda said flatly. Get out before I do something I regret. The guards hauled Scott outside. Emily followed, crying. Inside, the family stared at Paige in awe. You had the courage to do what many women never would, an uncle said. It wasn't courage, Paige replied, wiping a single tear. It was necessity. I couldn't keep living a lie. Her mother hugged her tightly. I'm proud of you, my girl. You've shown true dignity. Outside, Scott screamed, begging to be let in, but Paige felt nothing. She was free. 3 weeks later, Scott and Emily's lives had spiraled into chaos. Their small Boulder home became a cage. Scott, still weak, demanded constant help. Elisa, help me to the bathroom, he barked. I'm busy, she shouted, scrubbing dishes. I've been asking half an hour, he slammed the armrest. I don't work anymore. The town knows about your betrayal, she snapped, shoving him upright. Sergio muttered, maybe we call Paige. Are you insane? Emily exploded. She blocked me everywhere. She doesn't care if I exist. Meanwhile, Paige thrived. She returned to her marketing firm, welcomed by colleagues who admired her courage. Paige, you're glowing, Marina said at lunch. I feel lighter, Paige admitted. Carrying betrayal is heavier than loneliness. That afternoon, Henry called. Mrs. Paige, how are you? Better every day, thanks to you. I was wondering, dinner tonight? Nothing professional, just personal. I'd love to, she said, smiling. While Paige prepared for her date, Emily sat alone in a hospital waiting room for a prenatal checkup. Scott had complained his legs hurt too much to join. Doctor, is it normal not to feel happy about a pregnancy? Emily asked. Given your circumstances, yes, Dr. Evelyn Brooks replied. But protect your mental health. Stress affects the baby. That evening, Scott slumped on the couch, phone pressed to his ear, begging for work. He slammed the receiver down, frustrated. How was the appointment? He asked, masking hope. The baby's fine, Emily said flatly, tossing the ultrasound photos on the table. But I'm not. What do you mean? This just doesn't work, she said, ice cold. You're just sensitive because of the pregnancy, he tried. Sensitive, she snapped. You destroyed my family. We're broke, hated, and alone. And I only wanted you because you were Paige's. I envied her. That's all. So you never loved me? He asked, stunned. I thought I did. But now, I'm done. Her lips curled in disdain. Now I'm sick of you. Scott's world crumbled. Emily, you don't mean that. You're carrying my child. I mean every word, she said sharply. Get out of my house, out of my life. But I have nowhere to go. That's not my problem. You should have thought of that before destroying my sister's marriage. She grabbed his crutches and threw them against the door. Get out. Now. And the baby, it's mine too. Emily pressed a hand to her swollen belly, face twisted with despair and anger. Maybe that won't be a problem much longer. That night, Scott ended up sleeping on a park bench beneath Boulder's dim streetlights, shivering and humiliated. Emily was rushed to the hospital with severe abdominal pain. Stress, guilt, and exhaustion had taken their toll. She lost the baby. Alone in her hospital room, Emily wept, not just for the child, but for the life she had lost. Family, dignity, work, and love, all sacrificed for a man she had never truly loved. Across town, Paige sat in a quiet Boulder restaurant with Henry, the warm glow of soft lighting wrapping around them. For the first time in years, she laughed freely, her eyes sparkling. Can I ask something personal? Henry said, taking her hand gently. Of course, Paige replied. Do you regret what you did? Paige paused. No. I regret not seeing the truth sooner. I regret spending so much of my life on someone who never valued me. And now, he asked softly, brushing his thumb over her knuckles. I want to live. To build something real, with someone who truly values me. Someone like me? He asked hopefully. Exactly like you, Paige said, her heart racing in a way it hadn't in years. 6 months later, Paige and Henry were engaged. She sold the house she had once shared with Scott and bought a new one, ready to start over. Scott had vanished, his whereabouts unknown, while Emily lived alone, working as a cleaner, shunned by everyone who knew her story. Linda, having cut Emily off completely, stood proudly beside Paige as they planned the wedding. My daughter, you deserve all the happiness in the world. Henry is a real man, she said warmly. Thank you, Mom, Paige replied, smiling. Sometimes you have to lose everything to see what's truly worth keeping. She hugged her mother, grateful for her support. Life had taught her that betrayal, as devastating as it is, can also reveal your own strength. Paige was no longer a woman sacrificing herself for someone who didn't care. She knew her worth and refused to settle for less. While Scott and Emily suffered the consequences of their choices, Paige built a life of love, respect, and fulfillment. A year later, she discovered she was pregnant. Tears of joy streamed down her face as Henry beamed beside her. In that moment, Paige understood the ultimate truth. The best revenge isn't hurting someone else. It's creating your own happiness. You just heard this one from Stories by Sue. If it resonated, don't forget to like and subscribe. What are your thoughts? Share them in the comments. I'd love to hear. Thanks for watching.